from esports, we'll move on to EdTech now. And why are we talking about EdTech today? Simply because there's been a massive deal that has been announced. It's a $200 million buyout of a Silicon Valley company. It is India's very own Eruditus, which has gone ahead and bought this Californian company, all cash, $200 million, to enter the K-12 market, which is of course growing exponentially. And this company, ID Design, based out of Silicon Valley, is in the business of teaching teenagers coding, game development, robotics. So important skills of the future, and Eruditus is making a big announcement on that. So we've been joined by the co-founder of Eruditus, Chaitanya, as well as an early backer of Eruditus, Pankaj Makkar, the managing director at Bertelsmann India Investments. Gentlemen, congratulations on this mega deal. Chaitanya, $200 million is the, just the other day, my boss and I were discussing how after the spree of M&A deals announced by Byju's, we've not seen a big one by an edtech company, and here you come along with this $200 million announcement. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, thanks Nayantara, to you and to your viewers. So this is our expansion into the K-12 STEM education space. Eruditus has been in professional education, catering programs to working professionals in various new age topics. This is our intent in terms of making a foray or making it a formidable lifelong learning ecosystem by adding the capabilities of ID Tech. And providing offerings across from 7 years to working professionals and beyond. So that's our intent with this particular acquisition.
Okay, so STEM, for all of you that may not know it, it is science, tech, engineering, math. That's the common abbreviation that is used for it. But Chaitanya, you're with this deal, this massive $200 million deal, entering the K-12 market, which is growing exponentially. But this will be primarily for what? It's not going to be like your science classes and your math classes. Isn't this more for learning how to code, robotics?
Yeah, so this is expanding into K-12 STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Right? So when we think of the programs we've been doing, so currently our group, we cater to 100,000 working professionals in a given year in terms of upskilling and reskilling on future skills. So our thought process was that why should it start at a working professional level? It should start much earlier for people to be future ready and career ready. And we have ID Tech that's been doing this for the past 22 years, right? And they went from 200 students in their first year, having started as a Silicon Valley garage startup, to today they have 500,000 alumni across the world. And our intent is that how can we make our group one of the largest as well as the fastest growing skilling platform that's out there by adding this portfolio of programs in STEM education.
Pankaj, let me come to you now. You deserve a big congratulations. You were an early believer of Eruditus, and look at this. This is one of the biggest deals that you've seen in the edtech space. As an investor, from the investor's perspective, how big is this deal? Is it indeed a game changer?
It is, and thank you very much for the wishes. We are super excited. We backed Eruditus a few years back, Chaitanya and Ashwin and the team, because they had the vision to bring really high quality education through partners like Harvard and Wharton and Columbia and Yale into the higher education / lifelong learning space in Eruditus. And once we have now established that, and Eruditus is already a really interesting large company getting built, we wanted to do the same in K-12. And within that, I do feel that ID Tech was a perfect kind of marriage for us, because with that, as Chaitanya was saying, we've got this amazing company which is working alongside some of these large brands that we also work with, and bringing really high quality education to kids and students in the K-12 space in the US, but also around the world. And I do feel that it's very, very synergistic to what we are doing, and we're super excited.
But Pankaj, and you are an authority on edtech. You made investments and all of that. So I want to ask you this for this particular space, K-12, or whether you look at this particular segment within edtech, it's not overcrowded?
So first of all, K-12 in general is, in our minds, at least 10x bigger than higher education space. Just because the amount of subjects and the number of classes, etc., that need to be taught from a very young age to almost like 12th standard, the market is fairly large. Number two, it's global in nature. Number three, when we look at really high quality products, the way Eruditus has built a strong business for itself at the cream of that crowded space, we do feel that ID Tech has done the same in K-12, and the product will differentiate. And we do feel that for that specific product, it may not be that competitive.
And Nayantara, if I may add to this, right? So even globally, K-12, just looking at US, India, China, and the Middle Eastern markets, so there are over 600 million K-12 students that are out there. Okay, and I think what we are how we are differentiating ourselves is by very high quality, extremely critical, positive learning outcomes. I think that's going to be the shared value, which we've already been doing in the professional education space, and ID Tech has been doing for a while. Maybe just to share a couple of data points, right? For them, out of the 500,000 alumni that I mentioned who went through ID Tech over the past 2 decades, over 97% went on to pursue a 4-year college, and 9 out of 10 went on to pursue STEM education that I mentioned earlier. And also the icing is that over 90% have mentioned that their ID Tech experience has had a bearing in terms of the future education that they got. So I think that is quite heartening to us, and it's close to our heart in terms of how can we deliver high quality learning outcomes. And with that, we are planning to make a dent in this space, in the large space that Pankaj was talking about.
Chaitanya, you've always taken pride for affordable programs. Will that be the case post this acquisition as well? Is that something that you're going to do? Be very conscious of the price points. What kind of price points also?
Yeah. So Nayantara, ours is a global company. So how we are working with ID Tech in terms of expanding the product portfolio is, one is with our formidable university partner ecosystem. We currently work with over 50 university partners, and it's to marry that with ID Tech's approach of STEM education. That's one way we are planning to expand the product portfolio and help them have a bigger footprint. The second is in terms of the footprint is our presence in Latin America, India, Middle East, as well as APAC and China, where we have been growing 3x over the past 1 year. I think that's where I think ID Tech and its programs will get a lot of acceleration from. And the third is also to offer these boot camps, summer camps in these locations, using our resources, using our infrastructure and processes. So these are 3 aspects that we have. So to your point, I think you should watch out for the space for the next 3 to 6 months in terms of for us to have some offerings in the market.
Chaitanya, how are you going to be funding this $200 million? It's a big, big, big deal. How are you funding it?
Yeah, so one is definitely, this is, we'll be closing it within the next 4 to 6 months, and it's primarily the internal accruals that we have. And also, yeah, we will, if at all any external funding is needed, we'll be starting the process.
Pankaj, since you're here, I'd like to ask you that what are you seeing as the future of K-12? Now, 2021 also is looking very difficult that schools are going to reopen. We were all talking about the hybrid model. That's also now, I don't know, there's screen fatigue which is at play. How do you see this panning out?
I think in general, K-12 specifically for India, where lockdowns and physical schools will not happen on a regular basis, we do feel that online is the only medium to study on a continuous basis. And number one, I think that for the next 2 years, we do feel that even if there is some amount of screen fatigue, we would request parents, and we are doing as parents the same thing, of putting our children away from screen on other issues so that they can get a continuous learning experience. Number two, in general, we do feel that after COVID gets over in a couple of years, blended education will remain, just because the convenience blended education gives both students and parents, not of course on all the time learning on the screen, but sometimes going to physical schools, and also in parallel learning some school activities at home, but also doing courses which I do take, for example, over here, give like robotics and others, which schools are not today equipped to even handle. All of these skills put together will give an enriching environment to the kids, and I think that's the way forward, and a good way forward for all of us.
Okay. Chaitanya, I'm going to come back to you to ask the same question I tried earlier. Price points. What kind of price points are we looking at when it comes to the product being rolled out? You know, when you look at your university-backed programs, the long, short ones, you've always taken pride in your courses being not too expensive.
I think in general, K-12 specifically for India, where lockdowns and physical schools will not happen on a regular basis, we do feel that online is the only medium to study on a continuous basis. And number one, I think that for the next 2 years, we do feel that even if there is some amount of screen fatigue, we would request parents, and we are doing as parents the same thing, of putting our children away from screen on other issues so that they can get a continuous learning experience. Number two, in general, we do feel that after COVID gets over in a couple of years, blended education will remain, just because the convenience blended education gives both students and parents, not of course on all the time learning on the screen, but sometimes going to physical schools, and also in parallel learning some school activities at home, but also doing courses which I do take, for example, over here, give like robotics and others, which schools are not today equipped to even handle. All of these skills put together will give an enriching environment to the kids, and I think that's the way forward, and a good way forward for all of us.
You're going to be competing with a Baiju.
I mean, there could be some similar products, Nayantara, but considering the portfolio that ID Tech already does in the US, so which is getting into 3D printing, right, as well as other, critical design thinking. So there are a lot of a product portfolio that's unique that ID Tech brings to the market, and as well as the learner outcomes coupled with that, that could make it a unique proposition here.
Do you want to give me an idea, Chaitanya, of how big Eruditus is? You know, I was asking Pankaj about the future of EdTech, but the 2020 would have also been an inflection point year for you. 2021, again, we have all these lockdowns, second wave, all of that. How big is Eruditus today?
Yeah, so currently this year, Nayantara, ending June, we would be at 180 million in terms of revenues approximately. And with our growth plans that we have, thanks to our last funding round, as well as the investments we made, and with ID Tech next year, we are looking getting to 500 million or 500 million in revenues, right? And this is also fueled by as I was mentioning, over a 3x growth in our emerging markets, especially Latin America and then China. Right. So in a given year, that's one way to look at it, but I would like to look at it from the impact angle, right? So in this year, over the past 12 months, we would have impacted maybe 100,000 learners or students through our various programs, right? How can we make it 10x within the next 2 to 3 years? I think that's where our strategic intent or our goal is. And with the kind of investments we have made, as well as the growth that we are seeing, I think we are well on it, on that particular path.
Right. And with that, all the very best to both of you. Thanks so much for joining us. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap.